Hey guys, it's Marissa here. This is an incredibly exciting season we are in right now. So we have been throwing many announcements at you lately. I'm jumping on here today because I want to make sure you don't miss a single thing. This Sunday, we are releasing a podcast of all of us answering all the questions you submitted. It's funny, but it's also really meaningful. This relationship Q&A will be out this Sunday, Valentine's Day. We also recently announced that we are having a spring retreat this March called Wired. I'm so excited. There will be some special guests, big prizes, and ridiculous games. If you happen to forget everything I've said, this is one thing I want you to remember. Registration for the retreat opens this Friday. Our team is so excited to have you. Speaking of team members, Bex is jumping into the story.
Hey, welcome back to Youth, everyone. It's Bex here, and I am stoked to be here to wrap up Chapter 5 of the story with you. We left off with Julia last week talking about the 10 Commandments. It was awesome. Be sure to check it out if you missed it. And we talked about the promise that was made between God and his people. At this point, Moses has headed back to spend more time with God, and he's been gone for a few weeks. Have you seen the video of the little kids and the marshmallow test? Okay, if you haven't, some little kids are sat down at a table with a single marshmallow placed in front of them. They're told, wait here. You can either eat this marshmallow now or you can wait, and I'll give you another marshmallow when I'm back so you'll have two. I have no idea how long they made the kids wait, but the struggle they go through is painful to watch. Everyone is like sniffing it, picking pieces off of it, licking it. They get as close as they possibly can without actually eating it, but not all of them manage to wait. Some cave. With the Israelites, they need to wait for Moses to come back. It required patience, and sure enough, they didn't have enough. Unfortunately, if they were one of the kids in that marshmallow test, they would have eaten it way before an adult came back with a second one. let's rewind a little and recap. Moses has been up and down the mountain a few times, right? Now they have the 10 Commandments, clear instructions on how to live their lives, and a covenant was made, a promise between God's people and himself that they would follow and obey him and abide by the 10 Commandments. Well, the people decide that Moses has been gone too long. They want a new God to worship. So Aaron, the guy who was left in charge while Moses was away, collected all their gold and built a statue out of it in the shape of a calf. I don't know why a calf. They literally had every option available to them to choose from, but no, a calf. Whatever. I feel like that was a really bad choice, but I mean, we can see how these people are really into making bad choices these days. So this happens. God notices the people worshiping something other than him, and he's like, Moses, but man, we literally just talked about this. It was commandment number 1, literally the first one on the list. Do you remember this?
Commandment number 1, you shall have no other gods before me. If the apple is my favorite fruit, it always comes first for me before pears and oranges and all other fruits. The same goes for God. We need to put him above everything else.
Maybe if they could have seen Julia's apple example, it would have helped them out a bit. The Israelites knew they weren't supposed to worship other gods, but here they are worshiping a gold calf. They were desperate for something to lead them, and they couldn't handle being patient while Moses was away. They had a craving for something to look toward, something to lead them. And the longer they waited, the more focus they lost. Until one day, they just say to Aaron, okay, we don't know what happened to Moses, so let's build a new God. It was easier to just gain the satisfaction now than to wait. The Israelites knew they weren't supposed to worship other gods, but here they are worshiping a man-made statue. We know that knowing right from wrong isn't the same as doing right from wrong. James 1:22 tells us to be doers of the word, not hearers only. If your thoughts aren't lining up with your actions, then the impact of the good that they could do never happens. You intend to clean your room. You promise your mom, yeah, I'm going to clean my room by the time you get home. And suddenly, before you know it, mom's home and your room isn't clean, and I can see the frantic panic now. All your good intentions to do it never actually manifested into action. Or you're back with your mom again and there's cookies on the counter and you're like, chocolate chip, my fave. And your mom's like, can you just wait till after dinner? And you're like, okay, cool, I can do that. Then you realize the dinner's like 3 hours away still, so you sneak a couple and now mom is wondering why you're too full to eat. Fun fact, moms always know. But do you see what I'm getting at? The Israelite people made a promise, and within a few weeks, they don't follow through on it. And we do the same thing all the time. We all have good intentions, and they can crumble really quickly when that's all that they really are, right? Just good intentions. The Israelites knew they had made a promise to God, but they lacked the patience to follow through with it. At the first sign of trouble, everything fell apart. When your mom asked you to clean your room and you said, yeah, no problem, you walk over to your room and realize the mess will take a lot more time than you thought. Time you could be spending gaming on TikTok, reading. For me, it's playing Switch. It's easier to not do what's right. But that's not the standard that God asks of us. He wants us to do what is right, not just what's easy. Okay, picture this. Doing what's right in that moment is cleaning your room. If there was someone watching you while you cleaned, I know, creepy, but just stay with me for a second, you'd probably be more inclined to clean, right? There's accountability right there. In life, we have friends we're accountable to, parents, teachers, coaches, small group leaders, and more. But what happens when we have to do the right thing in secret, behind closed doors, when no one's watching? No one knows if you pick right or wrong or sees the consequences of it. That's where the inner workings of who we are and the person we want to become really comes to light. So the natural question that comes out of all of this is how? How do we become the kind of people that choose what's right instead of what's easy? Okay, let's start by asking this. Who do you spend the most time with? When I was in my early 20s, I spent a lot of time with my boyfriend and our two close friends. The two guys were in a band together, and as a result, I spent a lot of time hanging out in their band practice space, going to local shows, talking to other people who were also playing at those shows, and before long, I knew a lot about what that scene was like. I knew what shows were playing, what venues were the best, the kind of people that would show up, what areas of town we should put posters up in, all of it. If I didn't spend all that time with these people, I would have no idea about any of that. I was so heavily impacted by the people I hung out with and what we would do together that it started to shape my knowledge, how I acted, the way I would talk, dress, everything. So think about your friends or those you spend the most time with. I bet you could do a really good impression of your best friend. I also bet that you use similar words to describe things, do similar activities together, and know a lot of the same people. They rub off on us, big time, and we often don't even realize it. On page 69 of the storybook, we see something unique start to happen with Moses. He's already been up and down the mountain countless times, and this last time, he was there with God for 40 days and 40 nights, and it showed. Moses' face was radiant, literally shining. It became apparent to everyone around him that he had spent time with God, and it left a mark. So back to our question, how do we become the kind of people who choose what's right? By spending time with the people who impact our actions, thoughts, and beliefs. This is true for spending time with Jesus and for who we choose to surround ourselves with. Jesus is perfect, holy, gracious, forgiving, kind, gentle, encouraging, loving. That sounds like the kind of person I want to become. And if spending time with people directly affects how I act, then we should spend more time with Jesus. And here's where it starts to multiply. Your friends are being impacted by you. They start to see all of the characteristics of Jesus by the way you act and talk and live your life. They're inspired and start to see and get to know Jesus as a result of spending time with you. Jesus wants us to be a light in dark places. This is part of what he's talking about. In a world that leaves negative comments, you can be an encouragement. When that kid at school gets bullied, you can show kindness. When someone wrongs you, you can choose forgiveness instead of revenge. Okay, for everyone who read chapter 5 before watching this today, were you pretty shocked at what you were reading? Chapter 5 is heavy. No sugarcoating. We're talking death and destruction. God is angry at the people for breaking the covenant between them. He's about to toss in the towel with these people and start fresh. Moses intervenes on the people's behalf and pleads with God to not destroy them. Moses stands in the gap between God and the people. I had a hard time reading this chapter. The relationship that people had with God in the Old Testament is different than the relationship we get to have with him since Jesus died on the cross. That's why there's so much talk about sacrifices and having to atone for sins. There was a price that had to be paid when sins were committed because God is pure and holy and can't coexist with anything that isn't pure. And don't get the wrong idea about God here. God didn't like it that way. That was never his design. He created us to have relationship with us. So when sin comes in and separates us from having that relationship, it hurts his heart too. That's why he sent Jesus to stand in the gap and pay the ultimate price so that there would be nothing in the way of experiencing relationship with him. The God of the Old Testament is the same God of the New Testament. The big difference is Jesus. Because Jesus died on the cross, we get unlimited access to him and having a relationship with him. There's no hoops to jump through or sacrifices to be made. All you need to do is carve out some time in your day to spend with him. So just before we go, you'll have some time in your small groups to talk about some ways you can spend more time with Jesus. My challenge for you is this. Find just one way to spend more time with Jesus. I promise you won't regret it. Next week, we're heading into chapter 6, and it's going to be a gooder, so we'll see you here in the same place at the same time next week.